who actually had the chance to build a really decent clientele and earn well. And I always think, you know, you're better to have 6 staff that are earning really well and are booked up and are, you know, everything's going completely well for, than to have 10 staff and half of them sat on their bum.
Yeah, yeah. And did you?
And that takes guts as well to do that, because it's not nice.
It's not easy.
Not easy, and it's not nice.
But it immediately had an impact on your business?
Immediately had an impact. And the ones that stayed, you know, they sort of, they could, because I explained it all to them, and I sort of said, look, you know, this is why, we've asked clients why they rebook you. This is what you're doing right. Because I also believe that you should, if you have to tell somebody something bad, I always try and praise them first, then throw in the knife, and then praise them again. So they leave on a high, and they leave trying to correct the thing they're not doing right than just to think about the thing they're not doing well. Yeah. And sometimes as a boss, it's so hard to do that. You know, you call them in at the end of the day, they probably haven't had a lunch break, and you say to them, you know, your room looks like a mess, and da-da-da-da, you haven't done this or whatever. But if you call them in at the end of the day and say, thank you so much, I know you haven't had a break today, you've worked so hard, if you could just find it in yourself to just clean your room up, because as you know, it's not quite right at the moment, but if you could do that for me, I'd be so, so pleased. And you know, once again, thank you so much for all your hard work today. You know, which way is going to work best?
Yeah, definitely. I'm a big.
I think you can get what you want that way.
Yeah, I do think you get more with honey than you do with vinegar. Definitely, I'm a big fan of the. I'm a big fan of the praise sandwich myself. This leads us on nicely. It's like it's not just thrown together, is it? You've really thought about this.
No, I chucked it together actually.
It's about, do you have realistic profit expectations and achievable long-term goals? Now, you've actually got a number that you think is realistic.
10%.
Yeah.
10% of your net turnover, 10% net profit is my golden rule, and it works for Richard Branson, it works for Alan Sugar, and again, you know, you always get some smart ass that says to you, well, I can make 25% net profit, or I can make, somebody tried to tell me the other day they made 40% net profit, and I said, well, I'm sorry, but I don't know what your shop looks like, but it can't have had a refurb for 25 years, and you can't be paying your staff well, and you can't be investing in branding and marketing, because whatever I do, I never make more than 10% net profit, and it works for any business, and that's whether you've got a shoe shop, an airline, a bus, train firm, whatever it is, it's 10% net profit. That should be the goal. And it's hard to get that at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, one of the reasons I guess it would be hard would because about price increases. I mean, do you think that in a recession people in this industry can put their prices up?
It's a tough one, isn't it? I think you have to, it all depends on when your last price increase was and how much it was. And I think you've got to, I mean, we did a price increase last year in July, which was planned, and we hadn't done one for 18 months, and we tend to do them every 18 months because it's quite, you know, when you say to a client, but they haven't gone up for 18 months, it's quite a nice length of time. And had we known what we were going to face in October, would we have done it? I don't know, probably not. But what we've tried to do now is to give something back to our clients. We're doing this points thing where they get, you know, points every time they book in and every time they pay, and they can use those points against next time they come. You know, it works for Boots, it works for Tesco's. I mean, I'm suicidal if I go out and I haven't got my club card, even if I'm just buying a loaf of bread. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Do you think it's possible that, I mean, you did in the last recession, but everyone keeps talking about how this is very different. Do you think it's possible for a salon here to grow? Do you think if you were a small salon, you just started business, would you be absolutely terrified, or do you still think there's something positive that can be made out of what's going on at the moment?
I think you've got to, I think you can. I mean, I would be, it's not a good time to start a business, obviously, but, you know, that's not to say that you can't win over, but then you have to see what everyone else is doing, and you have to just basically go in, experience the treatments, and it goes back to point 2, you know what's around, know what's on your doorstep, and just decide, well, if I'm going to win those clients, I've got to do something over and above what so-and-so down the road does. You know, I just have to find my own USP, my own point that's going to, my sort of niche that's going to stand me out. But I think business is hard. I mean, I bumped into someone last night at our awards, and they were trying to tell me that business was fantastic and they were 25% up on last year. And I just said, well, really? And, well, good for you, but it's very, very hard for us. And I said to them, yeah, but your price increase was 5%. So actually, in like-for-like terms, you're not actually that much up on last year, are you? And they hadn't actually thought about that. So you can't, I mean, it's very tough at the moment. I think it's very tough. But, clients will still pay, but their expectations are higher than ever before, and I think that's something that's so draining for us, because they will pay, but they just want more and more and more and more. And that's fine, but because it keeps you on your toes, but it's hard work.
Yeah. Okay, we're moving on to your favourite bit, and this is the creating budgets and net targets. And negotiating on your fixed costs and overheads. And I love this story, your brilliant story about when you started with the towels. So you have to tell them the story.
When we started, so it was 1992, and we were in Knightsbridge, and we had 5,000 square feet, and I trimmed, and that's a lot of space to fill, and I trimmed this massive team down, and so we had this team of just sort of 6 or 7 that we knew we had to build on. And one of the things that they were doing, well, first of all, there was a cheque that they hadn't banked for £6,000, which was lying under a desk somewhere, a scrappy-dappy bit of paper that had, had sort of tea stains and whatever on it, and which had expired, and that just made me want to cry, because that's how badly it was being run. And then this little man used to come every day with his van, and £3,000 a month, that was in 1992, to bring towels in the morning, wash them at the end of the day, and bring them back the next day. And it just was a no-brainer, just thank you very much, Mr. Towelman, goodbye, let's go and buy some Bold and a tumble dryer and a washing machine and buy some towels, because that's just crazy. And I think that's sort of, again, not seeing the wood for the trees, because obviously at one time they could do that, and trade was actually good enough to have a man with a tank, and they didn't have to load up the machine every 5 minutes and everything else. But you just have to, if you don't see the wood for the trees, you couldn't judge that right, and you couldn't say, we can't afford to do that anymore. So, that was the sort of thing. But I think the net thing here, what sort of frightens me more than anything, is businesses don't sort out their P&L and their cash flow based on their net turnover, net of VAT. And more businesses go bankrupt over not paying their VAT. And when you ask them, and sometimes, I've had somebody say to me before, well, it's all very well, but it doesn't work if I don't add in the VAT money. I said, but if it doesn't work, if you don't add in the VAT money, that money's not yours. It's the government's. Get rid of it. What I do every week, I just transfer my VAT money away. I don't want to see it. I don't want to look at it. It's not even mine. Go away. Go into a separate bank account. And if it doesn't work on your net turnover, then it doesn't work at all, and it's flawed. And so many people say, oh, yeah, but, I need that to help my cash flow. Yeah. But it's not your money. And if it doesn't work without it, then it doesn't work. So change it. Yeah,
and the number of businesses you were saying, the number of businesses that go out of business just because of not having made that calculation.
So many people, so many people. And obviously we've now got the VAT down, and it's obviously now 15% again, which I'm old enough to remember the last time it was 15%. But, and obviously that's our choice whether we pass that on to our clients or not. You're not obliged to do that. That's up to you. If your price list is set inclusive of VAT, that's your choice whether to pass that on or not. A lot of people don't realise that, and they just think,
as well as being a spreadsheet junkie, one of the things that you're very good on is being incredibly fierce and negotiating on absolutely everything. So
I'm not here to make friends, you know. In business, I'm here to make friends, but I'm not in business to make friends.
We all need friends. What tips would you have for the audience on kind of, really kind of haggling on prices, and what kind of things have you found successful in areas that you found that you've been able to be successful in negotiating on price?
Yeah, well, one of the big things for me is, and I just absolutely don't get me on my soapbox about this, but the charge that you have to pay for when clients pay by credit card, I didn't know for the first 5 years, if you actually rang the bank up and said, I don't want to pay that much, that they would actually say to you, okay, what do you want to pay then? And when people come on my course, it's the thing I say to them,